So we talked about the yield to maturity, how the yield to maturity should be considered, and what if the yield to maturity be different by time, and we have to calculate it to know that if it really worth it, or the changes that we might have in the interest rate by time could have an effect on the value of the bond and the earning and the profit and the return that we might receive from this bond. So we had also some formulas to calculate it, but as we discussed before, we have some approximation also to be considered. So one of these approximations is what's the current yield, okay? So we have the current yield. That is an approximation of the yield to maturity on coupon bonds. Easy to calculate, but it is an approximation and it's not very maybe accurate. So the general characteristics of the current yield is that the current yield better approximate the yield to maturity. So better approximates the maturity, okay, when the bond's price is nearer to the bond's par value. So if the bond's price is nearer to the bond's par value, the yield, the current yield would be a better approximation for the yield to maturity. Also, if the maturity of the bond is longer, so the maturity of the bond is longer. And another concept that is important for the current yield is what? Is that a change in the current yield always signals a change in the yield to maturity. So maybe it's not a good approximation, but it is a good signal to be monitored to know about the direction of the yield to maturity. Okay, so a change in the current yield always signals a change in the same direction to what? To yield to maturity. Okay. So why these characteristics are appearing here for the current yield? Because the current yield is equal to what? as we said before, it is the annual coupon over the current bond price that is equal to the yearly coupon payment divided by the price of a coupon bond. Okay, so if the bond price is nearer to the bond's fair value, we can see that the current yield would be a better approximation for the yield to maturity. Okay, and the direction is also important because it's a relation between the annual coupon and the current bond price and the yearly payment with the price of the coupon bond. So it can give us the direction also and a kind of maybe approximation for the changes that we might expect in the direction. So imagine that we have a 10% coupon rate bond. When the prices rises from 1,000 currency unit to what? 1,100 currency unit. The current yield will fall from what? From whatever is changed here. Okay, so we have the 100 over this 1,000. Okay, the annual coupon over the current bond price. That is the 10%. To what? To 100 again. Over. Now, this is the value. 100, 1,100. That is less than 10%. More or less 9%. Okay. So the prices change 1,000 to 1,100, and as you can see, the current yield is decreased from 10% to 9%. Okay. So this is the current yield, but we have also the yield on a discount basis for discount yield. So similar to the current yield, we have what? We have the yield on a discount basis. Then we also call it the discount yield. Okay, so the discount yield or yield on a discount basis. So it is what? It's a solution to calculate the yield to maturity, so it was the yield to maturity, and it was a solution before computers help in calculation. So people find this yield to maturity calculation a little bit difficult to be applied in the real market. So they try to use this discount yield with formula of the face value of the discount bond. So if we consider the face value of the discount bond and the purchase price of the discount bond times the number of years and over the days to maturity. This would be the yield on a discount basis, okay? So imagine 1 year bill, which is selling for $900 currency unit and has a face value of 1,000. Okay. The yield on a discount basis would be what? Would be the 1,000 minus 900 over 1,000 times over the days to maturity. That it could give us a number, a kind of approximation for the yield to maturity, but maybe the yield to maturity for this bill be higher. Okay, so more generally, the return on the bond held from time t to time t plus 1 the return from holding the bond from time t to time t plus 1 would be what? Would be equal to the coupon payment. Let's say coupon payment is C plus the price of the bond at time t plus 1, so the price is t plus 1, minus the price at time t over the price at time t, that we can write it like C over PT plus PT minus plus 1 minus PT over PT. Okay, so this one, as you could see, this one. So this is the coupon payment over the price of the bond at time t, the coupon payment over the current bond price. So you can see that we have the current yield and also the yield on discount basis. Then we call it this one as the rate of capital gain and this one similar to the current gain that we had here. The current yield. So the current yield and yield on a discount basis or discount yield, they can be calculated like this, very simple to be calculated, very fast, but at the same time not very accurate number for the yield to maturity, but we might have it as a signal for the change of direction for the yield to maturity. So as we could see, the return is always important to be considered. The return is something that is important to be monitored, and the interest rate and return and relation between these two will be also important. So we have to know about this connection between the interest rates and returns, right? So the return measure what? How well an individual fares when holding a bond or any other security. So it's about all the fares when we hold what? Bond or other securities. For what? For a specific duration. That is accurately gauged by what we call the return, okay? So this return is the fair that the holder of the bond or other security for a specific duration will have. And in more precise financial terms, we can say not return, but the rate of return. Okay, so it will give us what? The rate of return. So when it comes to any security, the rate of return is essentially a calculation that combines the payment received by owner with the change in the securities values. Okay. So we have some changes in the security value that it will give us what? The payment received by the owner. And the important point, the return on a bond may not necessarily equal the bond's stated interest rate. So the bond interest rate, the stated interest rate, will not give necessarily the payment received by the owner by time, and it might be different. But why it's different? Let's see what the return would be for a coupon bond with a face value of 1,000, similar to what I had before. So, okay. And the coupon rate let's say is 10%. Okay. Which is bought for 1,000, held for 1 year. And later sold for what? 1,200. Okay. And after this 1 year. So the payments to the owner are the yearly coupon payments of 100, 10% to 1,000. So the change in its value also is 200 that we have here. So we have the 100 as the coupon payments. So 100 plus these 200 that we have here as the change in its value, the 1,200 minus 1,000 over what? 1,000. So it will be 300 over 1,000. %. that is much higher than the bond stated interest rate. We have here the 30% and here the 10% for this example. So the current yield, the yield on discount basis, and the interest rate and the returns. And the distinction between the interest rate and the returns, these are the concepts that we have to consider.